Hey, Mike Pelonzi here with another episode of Safe and Sound. Very excited today. Part two of a three-part series we're doing on making your home safer, building a safe room in your house. And if you caught part one the other day with Mike Bean, but definitely check that out. We talked about keeping people out of the home first and foremost. And then today we're going to talk about the room. And tomorrow I have two guests coming in from Wayne Alarm and what to do or what's going to alert us when someone actually breaches the perimeter or our door or our window. So a quick recap. We talked about reinforcing door jambs and locks on doors in your home with Mike Bean. And again, I'm not talking about the $30,000 safe room. I'm talking about using any existing room with minor upgrades to keep you and your family safe. And writing this the other night, I added a law part to this. I mean, it's just because I see so much of it in court. I do consulting for a few different law firms in the area. And, I always say this, I need to keep people safe, not only from the threats, but from the legal system. And I'm going to touch on that at the end of this as well. So let's do some stats. Why are people doing this? Why am I getting called to do home assessments and where your home may be vulnerable to break-ins? And we all know about the locks and the shrubs and different things, but a lot of people, it's summertime. It's 80 degrees today. What's all in my yard? Shovels, pick, a step ladder, all things that could be used to get in a home when I'm not here or there. So people have been calling. I've been going to people's homes, a few businesses, but primarily this is for the home. And, we talked about safe rooms. We're really talking about three different types. Stopping burglars or home invaders, that's one. Or severe weather, that's two. Around here, New England, sure, maybe we need that. The third thing is in case of a chemical accident. More out west, where they unfortunately had some train derailments and some factories catch on fire. And the toxic fumes do go through the air and people have to evacuate or take shelter. But this is really more about just what to do if someone breaches our home. So last year there were 1.1 million burglaries in the United States. And this is all from the FBI crime stats. Of those, 34% of the time, they went through our front door. Very brazen. Front door, seeing the street, 34% is the highest number. After that, 22% of the time, they came through the back door or a screen door on the side of a door. We mentioned this in the first episode. Weather's nice. We're doing stuff in our home, upstairs, downstairs. Sure, we all like fresh air. Windows open, screen door open. Throw a little lock on that, a slide lock, and I'm going to talk about slide locks later. And 23% of the time, they crawl through a window. So those are the stats. People I keep my doors locked, so that's fine. But you always want to make sure it's a quality lock on your door. A standard deadbolt with a standard strike plate locks, they were breached after 2 impacts, and this is all from the FBI crime stats. Some people who stayed, they reinforced their door jambs with longer screws. It came to find out that a person that kicked in the door 13 times was able to breach the door. So if they determine, if their mindset is they're comfortable with their location to break in our homes, they're going to work at it to get into our homes. So it's out there. So what is a safe room? Everyone goes right to the movies, hit the wall, hit the button, the wall moves and the ceiling moves. And it's any room that can be fortified in a private residence or a business to provide safe hiding for you and your family in the event of an emergency. In this case, the emergency is someone breaking in. Home invaders, burglars, that's going to be our focus today. You can retrofit any interior space, a garage, a bathroom, a cellar, to any of the safe room standards, which I'm going to talk about. And a question I always get is, well, all my rooms have windows in it. I get it. Different types of safe rooms, you do not want a window. What I'm talking about today, we do want a window, and you're going to see why. Because I'm all about second egress. How do you get out? And I'm not asking you to throw your kids and your pets out the window. We're going to talk about fire ladders, so don't worry about that. But we always want to have a second egress out of that room. So when we're retrofitting a room, what are we doing? We're going to fall back with our family. The alert system goes off. Again, we're going to talk about that in tomorrow's show. Time to move. I do not want you searching your house if there's a problem. Do not be afraid to call the police. The police are never going to show up at your house and say, why'd you bother us with this? They would much rather have you fall back, be a good witness, get your family safe, than try to engage someone with whatever self-defense weapons you may have available. And I'm going to talk about self-defense weapons briefly later on today. So we're going to pick a room. Traditionally, it's going to be upstairs because what's going to happen, it's going to happen at night as a rule. Not all the time, but as a rule. So now we're all upstairs. We're in our bedrooms, kids are in the bedrooms, we're upstairs. Are we going to make a bedroom as a safe room? Not a problem. Or the bathroom. We're going to decide what's the best place for this. What are we going to do? First thing we're going to do is we're going to reinforce the door on that room. Now, I get it. People do not want an ugly deadbolt on their bedroom door or their bathroom door. And they've said this. And there's a quote. One lady said to me, I'm not going to say her name, she goes, I will never have an ugly deadbolt on an inside door of my house. I said, that's fine. Let's talk about a slide lock. What is a slide lock? It's just what it sounds like. It's a lock that slides into the door frame and will keep someone from opening the door. I like those for a couple reasons. You can actually put those high up. The last thing you want to do is create a safe room where, depending on the age of your kids, they get in the room, they lock the doorknob, that's fine. We can usually get a key, open that up. Then they throw some security lock on. Now how do we get into the room? Well, short of having to break down the door or get tools or saws, you can put those high enough up so a kid can't just get in your room and just throw the slide lock on. So that does have an advantage over the deadbolt along with the looks as well. So we're going to secure the room. What else do we need in that room? Communication, communication, communication. And I'm not talking about your cell phone that you take with you everywhere, and everyone does that. I'm talking about a second phone. Personally, I like a landline. Old-fashioned phone. Most of us still have jacks in the wall. We can have the phone company come in and turn those on. Old-fashioned phone, I like that because if you dial 911 on a landline, it goes right to your local police department. If you dial 911 on a cell phone, it goes to the closest state police barracks to that tower. Then you will have to tell them where you are, what address you're at, and then they will transfer you to your local police department. If that's not an option for you, that's fine. We're going to get a second cell phone. And when I say that, people look like we've all added our kids, our family member, like Mike. Not another bill, not a second cell phone on that plan. What a pain in the neck it is. No, it doesn't have to be. It can be any old flip phone, BlackBerry, any phone that's out there you can have activated. And we're going to get a charger and we're going to leave it on the charger. And what else are we going to put on there? We're going to put in big letters, black magic marker on it or next to it, the direct number to your police department as opposed to 911. So you're going to have communication. Again, landline's always a better option, but if you want to go with a cell phone, not your own cell phone, we're going to leave that plugged in and we're going to test it at least every 3 months because we're going to do drills, and I'm going to talk about that later. After that, what else have we done? Well, we've already had a locksmith come in and we keyed our doors, every exterior door lock with one key. When you get the police there, you want to be able to throw them the key so they can do room entry. They want to search the house easily. Obviously, we're not going to throw them a whole set of keys. Say, yeah, it's the blue one next to the car key on the fob and all that. You're going to have one key. It's going to open every exterior door. And it's going to be on a light stick, flashlight, small flashlight, something that lights up so they can find it easily when you can just throw it in the ground. Because again, most likely this is going to happen at night. So that's the spare key. What else are we going to have in this room? Ready to go. What have we prepared? All right. Protection. People are saying, well, I don't want to be in the safe room without any item for self-defense. I get that. I always recommend pepper spray. Definitely over having a secure firearm in that room for many reasons. Well, one, we're falling back with our family, young kids. Two, we've already called the police are in our house. The last thing we want is to draw a gun or have a gun out when the police are in the house, even though we're in a room. It's just recipe for disaster. You do not need the gun locked and loaded, ready to go in that situation. Pepper spray is a much better option. And anyone can use it, minimal training if for some reason someone got through the door. And we plan for all different scenarios. You know, yeah, they got through the door, yep, they were determined. Most likely burglars, they just want your stuff. And in Massachusetts, you cannot use a lot of force to stop them from taking your stuff, especially in your home. And I'm going to talk about the legal aspect of that in a little bit. All right, so now we have a key. We have the second lock. We have communications. Life is good. Everyone's stressed out. Where does that bring us to? Medication. If you have a family member who has asthma, high stress can cause an asthma attack. So you want to have a spare inhaler. If someone in the family has a heart condition under that kind of stress, you don't want the nitro pills in the bathroom downstairs while you're upstairs. You want at least a few pills up there, if not a spare prescription bottle, depending on what your doctor will issue. Anything that may create a problem with you and your family medically. Prescription drugs, absolutely. Again, for the heart, for the asthma. Have some water. Just a few bottles of water. Stress, people get very thirsty. They dehydrate. Young kids, not a bad idea to give them a bottle of water, maybe some of their favorite snacks. And while I'm on the subject of favorite snacks, we are absolutely going to take our dogs with us, right? Yes, we are. Because remember, dogs are property in the law in Massachusetts, and we are not allowed to use a lot of force when it comes to protecting our property. And most of us love our dogs more than we love most people. So we are absolutely going to bring our dogs in that room. So maybe your dog needs a favorite toy or a treat or two. Absolutely. Now we're going to have a fire ladder. I talked about the second egress. Do I think someone's going to light your house on fire? I don't know. But I know one thing, if there's a house fire, or if for whatever reason something sparks, and you're on the second floor, and there's a problem, and you need to get out, walking through smoke-filled hallways and stairways is not an option. It's going to end in a bad result. So now we're going to hop out the window on a fire ladder. That's great. They have harnesses for young kids. Put it on your young child or a small dog or a cat or whatever animal you have and come down. I happen to have a little Chihuahua Shih Tzu mix now, but I had a German Shepherd at one time. And that German Shepherd is not going on my chest at all. They absolutely do. They absolutely make harnesses with, you can put a rope or a chain on and lower your dog down out the window, which I know we do all do. So we are going to get out. Now, I also like cameras. We've evolved through cameras, and I'm going to talk a lot about this in the next part. There was a time where you would have to have big, ugly cameras in your hallway, and no one would want that. I'm all about putting, these small cameras throughout your house, just so you can get an idea of what's going on in your home while you're locked in. I always recommend one in the main living room and one in the hallway. And the key with the hallway facing the door in the safe room is so you can see down. I want to be able to see the doorknob of that room. The mistake people make is they put it downrange, or down the hallway, well, not at the range, down the hallway, and now someone runs up the door, you don't know who they are or what they are. This also aids when the police clear your house, they come to the door. The dispatcher on the phone is going to keep you on the phone while all this is going on. Don't think while you're on the phone, help isn't on the way. It absolutely is on the way. But they're going to say, okay, Officer so-and-so's at your door. Peace of mind, you'll be able to look at your camera, whether it's a monitor, whether it's an app on your phone. Yep, there he is. Open the door. Again, last thing they want to see when you open the door is a gun laying on the bed or on the table. So, again, I'm not a fan of the gun in the safe room. So that's visual. How much space do you need? Well, there is a recommended minimum space, which is 5 square feet per person or per animal. Recommended is 10 square feet per person. So if you have 4 people, 40 square feet, do the math. We can figure out what room is the best room to have that safe room made out of. And now comes the cost. How much does all this cost? It sounds like so much. Well, it can cost a few $1,000s, depending on what you're doing, but there are funding opportunities that are available for us, for residences, through FEMA and also your State Hazard Mitigation Officer, SHMO, State Hazard Mitigation Officer. Whoever knew we had a State Hazard Mitigation Officer in Massachusetts? But we do. You can call them up, tell them what you're doing. You want to create a safe room. You'd like to know what the options are in your neighborhood. It goes by zones, what threats are in the zone, how much crime is there. That will determine how much money they'll give you, if any. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but there are funding options available out there. So it may not cost you anything out of pocket, other than just filling out some paperwork, going through FEMA or the State Hazard Mitigation Officer. So not a bad piece of information. I tell people that, when I'm doing these assessments in their home, they think, wow, I heard, everyone's heard of FEMA, but no one ever heard of the SHMO. And we do have that in Mass. And then the question, Mike, it's great, but you know what? I'm trained. I've taken self-defense classes. I've taken some of your gun classes, pepper spray classes. Why go through all this time and expense? Why do you want me to hide in our homes? It's our home if someone breaks in and go through all this. Very simple. If you've taken any of my classes, any of the self-defense class, firearms class, use of force class, I'm all about situational awareness, and what does that entail? Avoiding the conflict at all costs. We win every fight we do not fight in. I know it's hard for people to accept that someone breaks in our home, that it's preferable to run and hide, but it is absolutely most preferable to run and hide and get the police there. Sure, you may be trained. I'm trained. Been in a lot of fights, in the ring, wrestling, defensive tactics moves. Ask my wife how many times I come home with bruises or cuts or whatever, nothing serious. In a fight, you're going to get banged up. It's not like the movies. Best case scenario, you engage someone, they don't have a weapon that they can do serious harm to you, you get some bruises, some cuts, some banged up a little bit. Okay, we can recover from that. How about if you break a bone? How about if you break a leg, break an arm? Now you're in a cast. We've all broken bones, right? How long are we in a cast for? 6 to 8 weeks. Well, there's our whole summer gone. Maybe now you can't work. Maybe you tore some ligaments in that whole fight. Now we get out of the cast. What are we doing now? 3-4 months of rehab. So because we wanted to engage this person, we've actually set ourselves up for 4, 5, 6 months of misery where it would be much easier to fall back. And that's my whole philosophy. Fall back when you can. And it's tough. I get it. When you talk about self-defense, we're always talking about 3 main aspects to get you physically, mentally, and legally prepared. I'm actually going to do a whole show on the legal aspect. I did the show earlier with Rich Chambers. Check that out on the YouTube channel. But I'm also going to bring in a representative from Delta Defense, and I'm going to dedicate a whole show to that because it's really important people understand that the mental part. All right, you've worked out, you've taken training, you're ready to go. What's the legal part of it? What's the mental part of it? Have you ever been in that situation? Will you freeze in that situation? Happens to many people. I hope you're not so used to fighting that you don't freeze. That's great. Who knows that when you're in a fight, when the threat stops, when they give up, your use of force has to stop. By law, that's not an option. You have fear and adrenaline pumping through your body. You know you're trying to keep your family safe. That's going to be a hard switch to turn off. No sense of engaging someone where you don't know what their skill set is, what weapons they are, in the middle of the night, pushing your family somewhere, and you out there fighting, through whatever threat's there. Always better fall back with the family, let the police handle it. The legal part of it. And I'm going to talk about this before we do the tip of the day. You got this training. You've got this training. You bought a gun, you bought pepper spray. Do you have a lawyer on retainer? Maybe you're not going to use any of that. Maybe you're going to fight your way through it. You're boxing, martial arts. You're going to fight your way through it. Do you have a lawyer on retainer? And people look at me like, no. And they're thinking thousands of dollars. And it can be. In any use of force, maybe and hopefully you're never going to be charged criminally. I can guarantee you, whoever you push, whoever you defend yourself against, will sue you civilly. And that's the issue. They can go to any court, file a civil suit against you. Now you need to hire a lawyer. There are many cases where the homeowner has had to pay the person who broke into their home. There's a case of an elderly gentleman in Boston many years ago. It was in the 90s. Took 2x4s with nails, put it in the inside of his apartment. A kid took a crowbar, smashed the window, lifted the window up, put his foot through the nail, limped down to the hospital. When he was in the emergency department, he literally called the police on himself and told the police what happened. And he successfully sued the elderly guy because he knew in the law in Massachusetts, you are not allowed to booby trap your house. And people are just like shaking their heads when I say these things. Yes, so you need to have some insurance legally to go with your self-defense plan. Just like you wouldn't drive a car without insurance. You should not have a self-defense plan without some legal insurance. And it's out there, and that's where I'm going to do the show with Delta Defense and what they offer and their Protector Academy as far as liability insurance goes. And if you want that before I get them in, which would be later this summer, you can reach out to me in my office. The email is up there, or my phone number. You can call me directly, 978-993-3337. And I tell people we have to keep ourselves safe from the legal system and the bad guy. Do I agree with it? I absolutely do not agree with most of it. But it's important for us to stay safe from all of it. Go on with your life. As I teach in my situation awareness class, we are just going to go on our life path. We're not looking for trouble. When trouble finds us, what are we going to do? We need a plan. So, speaking of plan, let's get right to the tip of the day. Just to let you know, I ain't going to have Wayne Alarm in here tomorrow, and it'll be part 3. That's the alert system we're going to talk about. It's just not about alarms. It's going to be about all the news things out there. All right. Tip of the day. Like I've said in other classes, practice, practice, practice. You must do dry runs with your family. If you build a first aid kit, you have to use the items in your first aid kit. If you build a bug out kit, you not only have to use it, but you have to throw it on your back and walk a couple miles to know that it works and that you can physically do it. Practice going in, locking your doors. I want you to call your friend on that cell phone. We're not just going to look at it. Yep, it looks charged. We're going to pick it up. We're going to call our friend on it. We're going to have the kids, here, have a drink. Make sure the drink's fine. Can you get the dog? We all have dogs, right? Does your dog need a leash? Does the dog need a harness? We're going to have a spare leash and harness there as well. So when we get them out of the house, we actually have some way to control them. Remember, something that's familiar and you do it on a regular basis will create less stress. And that's what we want to do. We want to create less stress for our family and create a great fallback environment. All right. Wow. That's how we create a safe room. Look forward to doing tomorrow's show with Wayne Alarm. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll do a home assessment for you. And again, I want to thank everyone involved in the show. Chris Harvey, Michelle Lopez, and my wife Lisa, who's always behind the scenes, actually helped write the tip of the day today. So thank you, Lisa, for that. And we will see you tomorrow's show. Thank you.